The lunar surface stretched endlessly in all directions, a desolate expanse of gray dust and ancient craters bathed in the harsh light of an unfiltered sun. Against this barren landscape, a small figure lay motionless, no larger than a house cat, with scales that had once shimmered like emeralds, but now appeared dull and lifeless in the vacuum of space. Mono had been there for 3 Earth days. The little dragon's chest barely rose and fell, his breathing shallow and labored even through the emergency biosuit that his own kind had hastily fitted him with before their departure. The Draconic Collective had deemed him a failure, too small, too weak, too different from the mighty war dragons that soared between star systems. When their scouting mission to Earth's moon had concluded, they had simply forgotten him. Or perhaps they had remembered and chosen to leave him anyway. Commander Riza Hassan adjusted her helmet's display, the thermal imaging showing the faint heat signature of the abandoned creature against the moon's frozen surface. Her partner, Dr. Anna Chen, was running final diagnostics on the specialized containment unit they'd brought from their research station. "Vitals are critical but stable," Anna reported through the comm system, her voice tight with concentration. "Whatever that biosuit is made of, it's bought us time, but not much." Riza knelt beside the tiny dragon, studying the intricate patterns of his scales and the delicate membrane of his wings. Even in his weakened state, Mono was beautiful, a masterpiece of evolution that the galaxy's most advanced species had deemed worthless. The Collective's files listed him as genetically inferior, Riza muttered, carefully scooping the dragon into her arms. "No fire-breathing capability, minimal size, unable to survive in vacuum without artificial assistance." "Sounds familiar," Anna replied with bitter irony. "Reminds me of what the hegemony used to say about humans. Too fragile, too emotional, too dependent on technology to survive." The journey back to Luna Station 7 took 23 minutes. Every second, Riza monitored the dragon's bio-readings through her suit's medical scanner. His heart rate was erratic, his body temperature dropping despite the biosuit's heating elements. But there was something else, something the Draconic Collective scans had missed. Neural activity. Complex, sophisticated neural activity. Once inside the station's medical bay, Anna worked with practiced efficiency. She'd treated dozens of alien species over her 15-year career, but never a dragon. The biosuit came away in sections, revealing scales that were even more intricate than they'd appeared through the helmet displays. Each one seemed to contain microscopic circuitry, patterns that shifted and flowed like living metal. "Riza, look at this," Anna whispered, her scanner displaying impossible readings. "His scales aren't just decorative. They're computational. Each one is processing information, communicating with the others." As warmth returned to his body, Mono's eyes fluttered open. They were the color of starlight, silver with depths that seemed to contain entire galaxies. When he looked at Riza, she felt something she'd never experienced before. A gentle presence in her mind, careful and respectful, asking permission rather than demanding entry. "Thank you," came a voice that wasn't quite a voice, warm and musical in her thoughts. "I had given up hope." "He's telepathic," Riza breathed, meeting those incredible eyes. "That's why they called him inferior. He can't breathe fire because his biology evolved for something else entirely." Over the following days, as Mono recovered his strength, the true extent of his abilities became clear. His scales didn't just process information. They could interface with any electronic system, organic or artificial. He could feel the pulse of data flowing through the station's networks, understand the emotional states of every living being within a kilometer radius, and most remarkably, translate between any form of communication he encountered. The little dragon had been designed by evolution not for war, but for something the proud Draconic Collective couldn't comprehend: connection. "The galaxy's full of species that communicate in ways we can barely imagine," Mono explained during one of their evening conversations. His small form curled contentedly in Riza's lap as Anna monitored stellar communications from across the sector. Crystalline beings that speak in harmonic frequencies, energy creatures that communicate through electromagnetic pulses, hive minds that think in probability clouds. "My kind sees this as weakness, the inability to simply take what we want through force." "But that's not weakness," Anna said softly, looking up from her console where she'd been struggling to decode a distress signal from the Andromeda relay. That's sophistication. That's evolution. Mono's scales shimmered, and suddenly the garbled transmission resolved into clear, desperate voices. A research vessel, lost in a spatial anomaly, sending their final messages to families they'd never see again. Your species understands something mine has forgotten. Mono continued as Anna immediately began coordinating a rescue mission. Strength isn't just about surviving alone. It's about choosing to bring others with you. 6 months later, Luna Station 7 had become something unprecedented in galactic history. A diplomatic hub where dozens of species came to communicate with beings they'd never been able to understand before. Mono, no longer the abandoned failure left to freeze in lunar dust, had become the galaxy's first universal translator. Not just of languages, but of concepts, emotions, and dreams. The Draconic Collective sent an envoy to reclaim their lost property, but Riza and Anna stood firm. Mono was no one's property. He was their friend, their colleague, and living proof that the galaxy's greatest treasures were often the ones that others were too blind to see. Standing in the station's observation deck, watching ships from 100 worlds dock peacefully in their harbor, Riza remembered something her grandmother used to say. It's not the size of the dragon in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dragon. She smiled, feeling Mono's gentle presence in her mind, warm and constant as starlight. Sometimes the smallest dragons carried the biggest fires of all.